Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Isaac, and I'm thinking I'm going to call this channel Isaac's Reviews. A novel concept, I know. Why did I start this channel? Well, one, I'm not thrilled with the state of modern entertainment. Um, Most of it's not that good. A lot of it is ideologically driven. Um, in the middle of a otherwise very exciting movie, you'll get some sort of political talking point, and it just pulls you right out of the action. Um, a lot of it is just boring. I don't know if you watched the last handful of. Well, I was gonna list some interesting titles. The last handful of Marvel movies. They're not as good as they used to be. I don't know, the last handful of Star Wars movies. They're not as good as they used to be. A lot of it's just not that great. But there is some good stuff out there. I've managed to find quite a good list of interesting movies, books, comic books. There's kind of a modern renaissance of some very interesting ideas, some creativity from some new creators. You got Eric July with the Rippaverse, which I've got the first two ISOM books. I've really enjoyed those. You got some other folks on YouTube. You got the Rageaholic, right? Razor Fist. He's got a couple of fantasy books. I've really enjoyed those. I've got a couple other books in my Amazon list to pick up from some other YouTubers. Um, so there is some good entertainment out there if you know where to look. And that's really the purpose of this channel, is to help you know where to look for some good entertainment. I would like to help you, kind of guide you, if you will, to finding some enjoyable books, movies, comic books, TV shows. We're going to cover it all. Basically, anything and everything that strikes my fancy, we will cover it. So, here's our first review. Jonah Hex in Weird Western Tales, number 31, from December of 1975. For those of you who don't know, Jonah Hex is one of my favorite comic book characters. I first discovered him while watching, it was either Batman the Animated Series or the Justice League cartoon. I don't remember which it was. It was one of those two. And just found him incredibly fascinating. In Batman the Animated Series, he is an old man in a flashback in an episode dealing with Ra's al Ghul. And he's very memorable. He's balding at the top. He's got long white hair. He's wearing his Confederate coat. He's got a big old Bowie knife. And he's talking about justice. And I mean to serve you some. And it's fantastic. Jonah Hex, in an ideal world, would have been played by Clint Eastwood in like the 80s. And we would have had a great Jonah Hex movie. Unfortunately, we have yet to get that. Alright, so this is entitled Gunfight at Wolverine, which it's a simple, straightforward title. I love it. Jonah Hex is riding into Wolverine, Wyoming in June of 1875. He's going there to meet up with an old friend he fought with in the Civil War. That's right, Jonah Hex is a Civil War veteran. And he fought for the South, as evidenced by his gray uniform. And if you know anything about history and you've done any research, Abe Lincoln was not that great of a guy, so I don't fault Jonah Hex for fighting for the South. Jonah is riding past some storefronts when he sees a mob of angry gunmen doing what a mob of angry gunmen will do. He, however, is not involved, and so he's determined he's going to ride on by until he recognizes that man right there, the sheriff, his old friend, Dave Prentice. So, he teams up with Dave. He tells these guys to go away, but they're an angry mob. They don't listen very well. I'm sure none of you have seen angry mobs in the recent past. They don't listen very well. And so, Justice, Jonah Hex, and his old friend Dave Prentice, the sheriff, 2 on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Is that 6? No, that's 5. Okay. No, that is 6. 6 of them. 2 on 6. Jonah Hex and Dave Prentice, his old friend, the sheriff, gun these thugs down. They get to talking, and turns out Dave, his old buddy, settled down after the war and traded his gun in for a gun and badge. He also might have caught some sort of sickness from smoking. He's got a little smoker's lung going on there. Jonah's suspicious, but Dave says he just wants to see an old friend and invites him out to his place. They ride out to Sheriff Dave's place to see his bride. They pass an arena, which I'm sure won't come back up again anytime soon. They settle down to a nice home-cooked meal, and immediately, meeting the bride's nervous about things. They settle down to a home-cooked meal and are immediately attacked by the McCandless gang, or the McCandless gang. That's how you pronounce it. They're sitting there, flaming lantern thrown into the... They throw in a kerosene lamp, unlike their namesake. Should have been a candle. They throw in a kerosene lamp to burn the house down. Jonah, Dave, the wife, and Tommy, we learn that the boy's name is Tommy, escape through the secret underground hatch that all good homes should have, into the tunnels. They escape in, that's it, the end. I'm kidding. It's not the end. No, Jonah Hex and Sheriff Smoker's Lung pop out of the tunnels and do what they do best. Gun the crooks down. I think they even managed to shoot one of the bottles and light some of these crooks on fire, which... love these old comic books. I don't think you'd get that today. They think they have the last 2 alive. Let's see. Yep, the last 2 are there. They tell them they gotta stop, and those guys get ready to throw some kerosene at the Jonah and his buddy. And sure enough, no sooner has it left their hand than the crack shots, Jonah and Dave, have shot those and killed those guys. They walk away, fire burning in the background, and quipping like a buddy cop movie. I love it. It's fantastic. Right there. Those poor devils. I guess it's too late to help them. Yep. I love it so much. Finally, we learn Dave's wife and son's name. Sandy and Tommy. Jonah offers to wash dishes after supper and gets talking with Sandy about good old Dave. That's right, Jonah is in touch with his sensitive side. Turns out Dave doesn't have smoker's cough. He's got tuberculosis. Who said comics never taught you nothing? He's got the old tuberculosis, if I can pronounce that correctly. Sandy says that Sheriff Iron Lung is worried about leaving enough money for her and Tommy when he kicks it. And at this point gets interrupted by the sheriff. There's the sheriff's blushing bride talking to Jonah, interrupted by the sheriff. Sheriff tells Jonah, hey, let's go into patrol. They've just attacked the house. Let's go see what's going on. So, he and Jonah go out for a late night patrol. Soon they encounter one of the town's fine citizens, drunk as a skunk. He immediately insults Jonah for his uniform, because even back then we can't just disagree. And Jonah politely tells him, hey, the war's over, friend. Drunk then tries to attack Jonah, which goes over about like you'd expect. Jonah sidesteps, clocks him, sends him into the horse trough. And the sheriff escorts the drunk northerner to jail. At which point, Jonah is approached by a blind man who offers him a ticket to a duel. Jonah declines, and Sheriff returns. And starts to talk to Jonah. Jonah brings up the fact that he's been offered a ticket to a duel, and just then he is knocked on the back of the head, unconscious. Soon Jonah wakes up and is faced with the sheriff, standing with his gun belt, ready to go. He has to shoot an old friend. Turns out that the sheriff explains he's dying, and he thought that murdering an old friend seemed like the way to go. He even sold tickets. No, he concocted this scheme to get some money that he could leave behind for his wife and kid. Not a good scheme. I wouldn't advise murdering an old friend to earn money. Just PSA. So, Jonah declines, and Sheriff Smoker's Lung, again, the guy's name is Dave Prentice, but I'm picking on him because he's an idiot. He says, nope, you're going to fight me. Jonah confronts him. He says, I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to walk away. And he is not going to let him walk away. He's getting ready to draw on him, even with his back turned. When all of a sudden, blam! I love these sound effects in these old comics. Turns around, and turns out the sheriff's blushing bride has shot her husband. She says that she just couldn't let him become a murderer. So while she's crying and cradling her dying or dead husband, Jonah grabs the ticket receipts. He goes and gets the money, and he's getting ready to give it to her because she's going to need it, and by all rights, she probably should have it at this point. When he is confronted by Butch McCandles. Butch McCandles wants the strong box, and he's got 2 guns. He's challenged Jonah, and Jonah doesn't even draw his gun, flings his knife, and kills Butch McCandles. Story ends with Jonah kind of admonishing the widow because he figures she probably knew about it, right? This was not planned without her knowledge, and he kind of tells her, hey, you knew about this. Here's the money. It's yours. Talks to the boy, and the boy asks him if he outdrew his dad, and Jonah reassures him and says, son, nobody could have outdrawn your daddy. And he rides off into the sunset. I love this comic book. It's not one of the best. You can see it's kind of falling apart. It's not one of the best in my collection, but I love it because this is a typical Jonah Hex story. He shows up in a town. Maybe he knows somebody, maybe he doesn't. He gets involved in a conflict. It's your archetypal Western. He shows up. There's great characters. There's complex themes that you're not expecting out of a children's comic book, right? Great characters, complex themes, and a strong moral center. I love this character, Jonah Hex, and I think you would too. So give it a shot. Tell me what you think. Leave some comments. Link this video to your friends. And if you enjoyed this, subscribe. Thank you so much.